You've probably heard the phrase, "they threw away the key." It's a way of saying someone was locked up for good, with no chance of escape. But history has shown us time and again that there's no such thing as an inescapable prison. Some people have an uncanny ability to defy the odds, to outwit the system, and to disappear into the unknown. Today, we're diving into 5 prison escapes that are more than just stories. They're mysteries. These escapes have baffled authorities, captivated the public, and left questions that still haunt us to this day. Where are these fugitives now? How did they pull off these impossible feats? And why do their stories continue to resonate, even decades later? Let's start with a place that's practically a character in its own story: Alcatraz. If you were alive in the 1960s, you might remember when this escape made headlines. Alcatraz wasn't just any prison. It was a fortress, sitting on an island surrounded by the freezing, choppy waters of San Francisco Bay. It was designed to hold the worst of the worst. Escape? Impossible, or so they thought. In 1962, 3 inmates, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, decided to prove everyone wrong. They weren't just sitting in their cells counting days. They were plotting, scheming, and working. By day, they were model prisoners. By night, they were digging tunnels behind their cell walls using tools they'd fashioned from spoons and other scraps. But they didn't stop there. To fool the guards during nightly bed checks, they created lifelike dummies from soap, toilet, paper, and real hair. Imagine the patience and ingenuity it took to pull that off. Then came the night of June 11th, 1962. The men squeezed through their tunnels, climbed to the roof, and descended to the shoreline. Waiting for them was a raft they'd made out of raincoats. Raincoats! Under the cover of darkness, they paddled into the bay. And then, they vanished. The next morning, the prison was in chaos. Guards found their empty cells and the dummies lying in their beds. A massive search followed. Bits of the raft washed ashore, but the men were nowhere to be found. Did they drown in the bay's icy waters? Or did they survive and start new lives? Some believe they made it to South America. In fact, family members of the Anglins have claimed they received letters and photographs over the years. But the truth? Well, that's a secret Alcatraz may never give up. Now, let's fast forward a few decades to a man who could have been a character in a movie: Richard Lee McNair. If you've never heard of him, let me tell you, this guy was a real Houdini. In 2006, McNair escaped from a federal prison in Pollock, Louisiana, in a way that still makes people shake their heads in disbelief. Here's how he did it. McNair worked in the prison mailroom, sorting mail and preparing shipments. Over time, he built a compartment inside a pile of mail bags, just big enough to hide himself. When the bags were loaded onto a truck, McNair was inside. And just like that, he was out. But here's the part that really gets me. Hours later, a police officer stopped McNair as he walked along a road. Calm as can be, McNair pretended to be a jogger. He even made small talk with the officer. The officer let him go, not realizing he'd just spoken to an escaped convict. McNair has been spotted a few times over the years, but he always manages to slip away. To this day, he's still out there. And his story reminds us that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Now, who remembers the Texas 7? In 2000, this group of inmates pulled off one of the boldest prison breaks in modern history. It happened at the John B. Connolly Unit in Texas, a maximum security prison. 7 men overpowered the guards, stole their uniforms, and armed themselves with weapons from the prison's armory. Disguised as workers, they drove a stolen vehicle right out of the prison gates. Once free, they went on a crime spree that shocked the nation. Their most infamous act was the murder of Officer Aubrey Hawkins during a robbery on Christmas Eve. Eventually, the group was tracked down in Colorado. A massive standoff followed. Most of the men were captured, and one was killed. But one member, Randy Halpern, vanished. Did he go underground? Or did something happen to him during the chaos? No one knows for sure, and his story remains one of the many unanswered questions surrounding the Texas Seven. Let's move to Mexico now, where one man's escape became the stuff of legend. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was one of the most dangerous drug lords in the world. By 2015, he was locked up in a maximum security prison, surrounded by guards, cameras, and walls designed to keep him inside. But El Chapo wasn't your average inmate. Beneath his cell was a hidden tunnel, a mile-long underground passage leading to freedom. This wasn't some haphazard escape route. The tunnel had lighting, ventilation, and even a motorcycle on rails. It was an engineering marvel, built by his cartel. On the night of July 11, 2015, El Chapo slipped into the tunnel and disappeared. When authorities realized he was gone, it was already too late. Though he was recaptured in 2016, the audacity and precision of his escape left the world stunned. And now, let's end with a story that's less about prison and more about escaping the law. D.B. Cooper. If you were around in 1971, you might remember this one. On November 24th, a man calling himself D.B. Cooper boarded a flight from Portland to Seattle. Mid-flight, he revealed he had a bomb and demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. The plane landed in Seattle, where authorities delivered the money in parachutes. Cooper released the passengers and ordered the crew to take off again. Somewhere over Washington state, he opened the rear door and jumped into the night. And that was the last anyone ever saw of him. A massive search followed, but no trace of Cooper was found. In 1980, a boy discovered a decayed bundle of cash along the Columbia River. The same cash Cooper had taken. But where did he go? Did he survive the jump? Or did the wilderness claim him? These stories are more than just tales of escape. They're puzzles, reminders of the lengths people will go for freedom. They leave us wondering, where are these fugitives now? Are they living quiet lives under new identities? Or did their journeys end in ways we'll never know? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip through some of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.